Good morning. I brought a child's prop for purposes of today. I think everybody's seen something like this. It's basically a form of a pendulum. Each side allows the other to go an equal distance away from the center point. Same thing with the First Amendment. Each side must allow the other side content neutral breath. Because if we take that breath out of the room, even because somebody's president or somebody's on the school board or somebody's governor, we're taking the oxygen out of the room for everybody forever. This is a First Amendment case. I'm proud to represent Hope McMath and Haley Bartlett. So let's get into it. You guys have been provided with two separate federal complaints. Haley is suing Duval County Public Schools, currently only, because Haley has not received her complaint. Haley has not really been told why she's in the situation that she's in. And let's talk about that situation. And Haley's going to address this after I have some words and tell you more about the situation that she finds herself in. She's sitting in DCPS's office in a conference room alone, day after day after day. Not with her students at Oak Hill Academy, not with her precious student Jay, who we're not identifying in full name, who was dependent on Miss Bartlett. Because the kids at Oak Hill Academy are very special kids. Some severely autistic, some disabled or less abled. They need paraprofessionals. There's no allegation coming that Miss Bartlett was telling Jay who he should vote for, that he shouldn't be, favored to Republicans or Democrats. No. She was taking care of his needs and trying to make his life better. We're weaponizing speech to keep some teachers out of the classroom. Meanwhile, as you see in the complaint, and we redacted the teachers' names, there's those that are on the other side that continue to teach day after day, bring stuff into the classroom, post offensive things, but what you do in your private life, particularly as a teacher, according to, guess what, a U.S. Supreme Court case, Pickering versus Board of Education, is allowed. Mr. Pickering did the sin of speaking out about the Board of Education in an editorial. And everybody said that's going to inflame the school system, and you can't do that. He was suspended at every level until the U.S. Supreme Court said in 8-1 victory that, nope, you have the right to speak out. Now let's go back to September 11th. What happened? Charlie Kirk, unfortunately, tragically, was killed. Nobody here is celebrating saying, yay, another one died. Nobody here wants death. Charlie Kirk himself said speech must be open, it is not evil, it must be free. Charlie Kirk also warned about the violence that comes from speech that is divisive. But was Charlie Kirk's speech divisive? That depends on which side of this pendulum you're on. Objectively, what we know is Charlie Kirk said he didn't want the word Karen said because he said it was a slur word, but he was okay with using thugs. He was okay with using prowling blacks. He was okay with saying, immigration is the next Holocaust for the country. He wasn't afraid to tell woke white women they were starting war. And at some point, at all points, actually, women, educators, no matter what you do, particularly if you're in a government job, have the right to say, I don't agree. And that's what these two women did. Haley merely reposted somebody else's TikTok. That's all she did. No editorializing, no communication. What Hope did and said, it's been written about and written about and written about, but there was a comment about karma and how karma's there for all of us. And I agree with that. Because if you're on either of these extremes, you're drawing attention to yourself. And in this scary era, that is leading to more violence. But are we as a leader, are we as a country, are we stopping it? Are we saying stop the violence? Stop the rhetoric? No. We're continuing to call people monsters and engage terms that lead to more war. And so when you have school board officials wearing Turning Point t-shirts, and particularly for Ms. Carney, and Ms. Joyce, limiting speakers to 1 minute and 1 minute only, and cutting them off and threatening to remove them if they spoke for a minute, making them identify themselves in their addresses, but then reading a 6-minute email in the record which bolsters one side, her side, the Moms for Liberty side, the Turning Point side. That is improper use of speech. Moms for Liberty themselves, in the Brevard County case, has successfully sued for that. Duval County Public Schools has been successfully sued for speech way more offensive, but right-sided, than what was here. We talk about that in the Thomas Caggiano section of the complaint. So, look, folks, I'm here as a lawyer, but I'm also here as a dad of 3 Duval County Public School students who are worried as I'm traveling from high school to high school for my 13-year-old to decide which school to go to. I'm actually looking to see, how active is your Turning Point Club? How active is your now Club USA or Club America, because they're rebranding Club? Are they just trying to get flags in the classroom, or is this part of something else? Like, we as parents, is there a counterpoint? Is there a counterpoint to it? Because what's going on in these classrooms, and it happened at a local high school just last week, where Club America, Club America meeting was held, and people that didn't agree with Club America sat in, and the whole meeting had to be adjourned. So we're putting this energy, this negative energy, into our classrooms, into our students, and we're taking out teachers and suspending them indefinitely, and not providing the complaints, which is just it. In the law and law school, and we're in these constitutional law classes, they talk about a slippery slope and say, oh, that slope's slippery. You got to avoid the slippery slope. Because a slippery slope, you can slip and you can move down one way or the other. This is a cliff. And so we're slipping right off a cliff where those that are in power are allowed to put their religion, their views, their politics forefront in t-shirts. They're telling us what they're doing. And the counter message is persecuted, weaponized, etc. So this lawsuit is designed for damages and for injunctive relief, saying no more of that. Nothing about what's been going on has been content neutral. That's required in First Amendment cases. That means if I'm going to say something, far right or far left, they both have equal breadth. But if I'm going to say something far right and say, okay, let's just take these, I don't agree with these other 2 balls, okay? So let's just put them aside because I don't want them a part of this. So then this is what our school system becomes. Is that what we want? Because that's where we're headed if we're just taking out teachers that don't have the same views as us. So, I address being a dad, I address being a lawyer, but as a community member since I've gotten involved with this, and Hope and I have been working through this since September, hoping that the administrative process would get it right. It hasn't. But I've had countless teachers come up to me, and I literally mean countless, worried, wanting to leave the profession, not able to just teach. I've never had a problem in 25 years as a lawyer, and as 13 plus years, you got to count, I guess, each one of my kids' lives. If you count them separately, 30 plus years of being a dad. I'm not that long of a dad, but 13 plus 11 plus 8. I've never had an issue with a teacher over, drama in speech. Do I like the way all of them grade? Do I like the way all of them, present? But my mother was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher. And so if we're not going to protect them and say, well, now we're going to regulate their private lives, where are we? Because we're not living by the Constitution while we say we are, and we're not giving equal breath. And my friends, if we're going to say we're not going to allow one side to speak because we find it offensive, but meanwhile the other side is allowed, let's talk about what happens to that pendulum in a democracy. Because as soon as somebody else is elected, then your speech is an issue. And if you think you're on the right side of this because of your Christians, because of your religion, because of your values, it's going to be weaponized against you by the same people, the same type people of a different party. We have to allow the First Amendment to breathe on all sides, or we're all going to suffocate as Americans. Many of the folks here, many of the folks in Jacksonville are familiar with Hope from different news stories over the years, but I think this is the first time you're going to get to meet nice Haley over here. And Haley, what do you teach? Tell the people about who you are.
So I'm a paraprofessional. I work at Duval Academy. It's a center school, so we focus on students on the autism spectrum and just different needs that they, have to have. And with students with autism, you really have to build that trust, and it takes a long time. And I've been working at Oak Hill for a year. I started last year, and I built that trust, and and I'm very passionate about my students. I love getting to see them doing things that they might not they weren't able to do the week before. Basic life skills, and that was a passion for me, was just teaching these kids about life. And now I fear that trust with those students is gone because I've been taken out of my my classroom setting. When there was no political or politics that were brought into the classroom with coworkers, with students, like Hope said, my social media is not associated with work, Haley. That is who I am as a person. I don't bring that into the classroom. I'm very professional, and that's basically what I do. I have a big passion for special needs students and getting to teach them about life, because it's difficult for them, and not a lot of people realize how difficult it is to just teach them as well about basic life skills. So
you didn't editorialize, you reshared somebody else's views on TikTok.
If you guys are familiar with TikTok, you can repost things, and repost is just a button. If you agree with it, you think it's funny, just click the button, and that's exactly what I did. They were not my personal words. It was somebody else's words that I agreed with, that was brought to Duval County Public Schools as an issue, and that's why I am here. Even if it's not my speech, I agreed with it, and it wasn't during school hours, and sorry. I'm trying not to
Yeah.
be emotional. I think it's unfortunate what we're going through right now, how we can't speak or even show what we agree on in this time. So it's very unfortunate.
Where have you been since being pulled out of school?
I have been at the Duval County Public Schools building, right down the road. I have been there for 2 months. October 6th was my first day. I've been there every day ever since. And I have been sitting in an empty room with no windows for 7 hours a day, doing nothing. Sometimes, occasionally, I'll get a stack of papers, maybe once every 2-3 weeks, that they would like me to organize into alphabetical order, and that is it. I don't do any computer work. I don't do anything but sit in this huge room with tons of desks and chairs, no windows, and just I write in my journal, maybe go on my phone. There's nothing else I can do. And when I bring that up to one of the people in the investigation, I did not receive any answers. I told them that I was doing nothing and that I was actually looking for something to do, and instead I did not get an answer. I was ignored. So I'm constantly driving 45 minutes a day there and back to sit in an empty room for 7 hours. And yes, that does take a toll on your mental health, especially when you don't get to see your students who you love very, very much and have gained a year's worth of trust with.
Without getting too deep into a story, let's talk just for a second about Jay. What's your understanding of what happened to Jay, or Jay? Did Jay miss class as a result of after you left?
So Jay is a student I am very close to. I have a deep connection with this student, and anybody at my school knows how this student can be, so it's a very important connection to me. After I left, which I did talk to coworkers and we figured stuff out, but obviously I have this feeling that after I left, he went away for a little bit because of something that happened. And was not at school for a very long time. A long time, a couple weeks actually, and it was right after I left. And I have not spent one day without this student. He has not spent maybe more than 2 without me. And so deep down, I felt that it was my fault that he had this happen to him and that something was going on, and that's why he had to be taken away for so long. And it hurt me because I worked so hard with this student. I'm here for this student, and now I'm gone, and all of a sudden he's gone. So it hurts to see.
And I invite as a follow-up story for you guys to look into Bulls Bay, to look into these teachers that are you want to talk about a fiscal conservative. I was a Republican before I kind of moderated and became nothing, I say I'm not Republican, I'm not Democrat, I'm reasonable. But before I, became reasonable, I was a Republican. And you want to talk about fiscal conservatism, right? So is it fiscally conservative to have 10, 20, 30? We don't even know how many teachers scattered around Duval County Public Schools doing nothing while there is no impending investigation, while there's no due process being exercised whatsoever. It boggles the mind because Haley's case is just flat stuck. It's not moving because I believe DCPS recognizes they got a big problem with her case. If Thomas Caggiano wasn't guilty of wrongdoing and they're going to have to pay several $100,000, what are you going to have to do when somebody just reposts something? Anything else?
Yes, I have to agree with you. I am very stuck, and I did not want to reach this point, with having to sue DCPS, but unfortunately to be able to see my students who I adore and love so much and be able to see my coworkers who had my back since day one, I have gotten to that point, and it's unfortunate because not only am I a Duval County public school educator, but so is my mother. And so it's disappointing that I have to do this to be able to get back on the right track, to be able to see my students who were not involved in anything, who did not come up and say anything about this, nor did my coworkers have an issue. It was all outside of the school, so it's a lot to handle with all of that. But I'm looking forward to hopefully getting back in the classroom. But I am trying to look for the word. I'm not pleased that it has had to have gone this far in the situation that I have had to go through to be at this table right now, to be back in the classroom.
Nor am I. Nor am I. This isn't a lawsuit that I relish, and in fact, we've been working on it since September. And I just hope there would be some voice of reason, someone to say, okay, wait, yeah, we might have overreacted, but instead they're doubling down. And my whole thing, and this is my last thing, y'all can ask questions, is there's people that are going to watch this that think they've made up their minds, right? They made up their minds about hope long ago. They saw Haley's presentation. They're like, well, that she shouldn't have said that. She shouldn't have reposted that. There will come a time when, and now I've got it so twisted, there will come a time when your speech is next. And that pendulum has to be able to swing. And boy, were you okay with it swinging when it was, about Biden or Obama. You needed it to be able to swing. It protected you. And now it's back on the other side. And I just want you to take a moment, read my complaint, or read Thomas Caggiano versus Duval County Public Schools. If you think you know the law, if you think you know what's going to happen here, take a moment and read Thomas Caggiano versus Duval County Public Schools and see how much of an attorney fee award Thomas Caggiano and his lawyers were going to pay. Because we become hourly. I have become an hourly issue for Duval County Public Schools. I will take it to the U.S. Supreme Court. I have one of the largest verdicts. I have the largest award against a sitting president or president when we had to deal with speech in the White House. This is a little bit easier than that case. But we're going to donate a portion of attorney's fees back to First Amendment funds, back to kids. I don't relish this, but it is a must because we can't continue to take away speech rights from educators and keep them out of the classroom just because we don't like what they did in their private time.